can see you.
Welcome back to the Veiled Archive. Today we're recapping our mission to Appalachian WordFest. I went in with a target list, a handful of cards, and a wife who was ready to help me navigate the madness. What we found wasn't just a haul of great books, but a community of creators who are pouring their souls into the indie scene. Let's look at the hits from the day. First up on the hit list was Gary Butler. Now, I'd seen the blurb for his debut, A Misplaced Soul, and was already hooked by the premise of a 1930s soul navigating a modern-day vessel. But meeting the man behind the prose was the real highlight. Gary is the definition of panache. You know, in this digital age where everyone's a writer, some self-published authors struggle with the persona side of the craft. Not Gary. Transitioning from a career in journalism to long fiction clearly gave him a natural gift for engagement. He was incredibly personable, and we spent as much time chatting about life off the page as we did about the book itself. But we can't talk about Gary's table without talking about the snafu. Look, watching three grown men try to navigate a digital payment app in the middle of a crowded festival was a comedy of errors. It was a total comic scene. Luckily, Gary's neighbor was there to save the day. That's how I met John Bukowski. John isn't just a tech-savvy neighbor, he's a prolific author with a massive body of work, including the book I ended up grabbing right then and there, Project Suicide. Because John stayed engaged in the conversation the whole time, and frankly because he was just an awesome dude who helped us settle the bill, I had to add his medical thriller to the haul. The interaction between the three of us felt less like a transaction and more like old friends just catching up. Both of these guys signed their work with a level of pride that you only see from authors who truly love the grind. Ironically, the second target on my list, Andrew K. Clark, was positioned directly behind Gary's table. It was like the universe was streamlining the Veiled Archive mission for us. When my wife and I approached Andrew, we presented him with our mission and one of our cards. Let me tell you, Andrew was absolutely thrilled. It's one thing to have an author be polite. It's another to have them be genuinely excited that you specifically sought them out. He was incredibly down to earth, and he spent a good amount of time discussing his personal journey and his deep-seated passion for storytelling with us. Andrew has a clear knack for next-level narratives. Looking at his work, titles like Where Dark Things Grow and Where Dark Things Rise, you can tell he's weaving a complex tapestry of folklore and grit that is right up our alley. Meeting him was the epitome of why we do this. That in-person experience, that authentic connection between a creator and a reader, that's the high we're chasing. Andrew Clark is one of the biggest reasons we're already looking at the calendar, itching to get back to the next book fair or convention. His table wasn't just a stop, it was a highlight. Next on the list was K.R. Gadeken and her sci-fi novel, Nabucco. Now, the organizers actually pulled in way more vendors than expected, so hunting down specific targets was a bit of a mission. But honestly, with a cover that striking, she wasn't hard to spot. She was tucked into a corner booth, just an aisle over from Joshua Bish. Now, as you know, the channel has been deeply involved with Joshua's work, and he was the main catalyst for us even making the trip to WordFest. But seeing the proximity of all these incredible creators really emphasized the community vibe of the event. What really struck me at this table was the teamwork. You often see authors supported by their partners at these events, but KR and her partner John are a true creative duo. While KR provides the narrative, John is the architect behind that stunning cover and the interior illustrations. They fielded our questions in tandem, and both of them were incredibly expressive and supportive of the mission we have here at the Veiled Archive. You could see the raw pride of accomplishment on both their faces. It's that kind of collaborative energy that makes the indie scene so vital. And it's why we're so proud to support creators like them. Last, but certainly not least on the horror list, was Tucker Joneson and his anthology, Blood in the Dark. You know, sometimes being at the bottom of a must-buy list is actually a bonus, because that final purchase ended up right at the top of my reading stack as soon as I got home. What makes this book unique is the structure. Each of the 13 tales inside has its own personal interlude or acknowledgement at the end, giving you a glimpse into the history and inspiration for the story. It's a brilliant way to connect the reader to the writer's process. Meeting Tucker was like catching a bolt of lightning. He was probably the most enthusiastic person we met regarding the Veiled Archive mission, but he's also just a massive bundle of creative energy himself. His table was staggering. It wasn't just books. He had custom 3D printed bookmarks, comic books, and art that put his multidisciplinary skills on full display. As his About the Author section mentions, he's an artist and filmmaker too, and that cinematic eye really translates to his booth. We could have talked shop for another hour if the mission hadn't called us forward. I've already cracked into the title story, Blood in the Dark, and I can tell you right now, it's absolutely delivering on the promise that landed it a spot in the Doors of Darkness anthology. Tucker has already joined our ranks here on the channel, and I can't wait to feature this one in a deep dive. Before we wrap up, I have to give a huge shout out to someone we literally ran into in the parking lot, Daniel LaRiviere. He's the narrator for Joshua Bish's Echoes in the Stone audiobook, and if you haven't heard his work yet, you're missing out. He and Joshua have something special performing right now, and it was a trip to cross paths with him in the wild. But that run-in happened because Deborah and I had actually stepped out to the car to have a serious talk. We went into this 7-hour road trip with a set budget and a narrow focus on sci-fi and horror. But seeing over 80 authors pouring their souls into their tables made us realize something. The mission of the Veiled Archive has to be bigger than a genre. Every author dreaming of reaching readers deserves eyes on their work. My wife, Deborah VanHeest, knows this better than anyone. She's a published author herself, and she's seen the highs and lows of this industry firsthand. We realized right there that we weren't just buying books, we were supporting dreams. That realization led us back inside to Kemma Marshall. Her booth had caught our eye the moment we walked in. Now, I'm the introvert's introvert, and approaching that first table with our mission felt like a high-stakes moment of how will they react. It turned out Kemma and her husband were just as gracious as they were talented. We camped out at their table for almost 20 minutes. Kemma walked us through the premise of her massive Blue Hollow series, which, despite the historical backdrop, actually weaves in the supernatural elements we love. She showed us a professional-grade trailer for this series that was honestly stunning. We walked away with Book 1, Hymns of Blue Hollow, which is a legitimate doorstopper. That interaction set the tone for the entire day and gave us a lot to consider regarding the future path of this channel. Every one of these authors reminded me why we do this. The passion and the pride of accomplishment was the best fuel we could have asked for. I'm diving into these stories now, so keep your eyes on the channel for the full reviews. Until next time, keep digging through the archives.